In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint a nice bright orange armour, and I'm going to be using a Laser Votan Einhyr Champion model as the basis to do it. I'll show you how to paint the orange armour first, and after that I'll show you how to paint the rest of the model, so make sure you stick around till the end. Let's get painting. The first thing I've done is prime the model using Wraithbone. This gives us a nice bright base to start from. I'm going to use contrast paint to base the armour, and I just want to talk quickly about the difference between Gryph-hound Orange and Magmadroth Flame. Gryph-hound Orange is a lot darker and actually works really well for clothes, so if you're painting something like prison uniforms, for example, this works really well. The Magmadroth Flame, it's a single pigment contrast paint, so it covers fantastically well, and that's what we're going to go with. So taking that Magmadroth Flame, we're just going to paint this all over the armour panels, making sure that we don't miss anything. Now take your time with this and work one panel at a time. This minimises the possibility that you may get some pooling, which will give you a really ugly look. When that's completely dry, I'm then going to take some Black Legion contrast paint and use this to paint everything that's going to be black, such as the undersuit, the tubes, any different bits of armour. And the reason I've done this is because it's much easier to fix any mistakes at this point than it would be if we finished the orange armour. So just work your way around, get that done, and we'll come back and highlight the armour next. So to start highlighting, we're going to use Troll Slayer Orange, and what we're looking to do with this is paint this over all of the armour, leaving that Magmadroth Flame in the recesses, and we're just looking to paint mainly the raised areas that point upwards that are going to catch the light. Now take your time with this, work your way around the model, and what you'll see is because Troll Slayer Orange is quite thin, it'll blend into that base colour a little bit and give you a really nice subtle first highlight. Onto that first sharp highlight, and the colour we're going to use is Fire Dragon Bright. Now, like the Troll Slayer Orange, this is very thin, so you may need to put two layers on to get a nice crisp highlight. What we're looking to do is catch any sharp edges across the model, but we're also looking to catch those raised areas that are facing upwards in more of an area highlight rather than a sharp line highlight. Where you can, use the shape of the model to get a nice crisp finish. Otherwise, work your way around taking your time, and then we'll move on to the final highlight next. The final highlight on the armour is with Yriel Yellow, and this is going to be the sharpest highlight. Now we don't want to use too much of this because we don't want to push the colour too far to yellow, but make sure you've got a good tip on your brush and just catch those sharpest raised edges using the shape of the model where you can. And what you'll start to see is you get a really nice vibrant orange, very much like that early heavy metal style orange that you may have seen in the early 90s. So there you go, really nice, easy, straightforward orange armour. Make sure you stick around though, let's finish this model, and the first thing we're going to do is paint all of the metallics. I'm now going to base all of the silver parts of the model using dark aluminium from Vallejo Metal Colour. Don't worry if you haven't got this, you can use Lead Belcher from Citadel. I just really like how well this flows off the brush, and when we're painting these rooms with lots of recesses, that really helps. Be careful, take your time, you don't want to spill this on all of the orange you've already finished. When you've finished all of that, simply take some Nuln Oil and use this to shade all of the silver areas you've just finished. Take your time with this and be very careful not to spill it onto those orange areas you've already finished as well. While we wait for that Nuln Oil to dry, we can do some other areas. The first thing I'm going to do is take some Garaghak sewer and paint any leather parts such as the handle on the Thunderhammer as well as parts of the undersuit. I'll use Sigvald Burgundy on the handle of the hammer, and I'll also take some Frostheart and use this on that bit of tail coming off the headdress as well, because it gives a really nice contrast to that orange colour. Finally, on the metallics, take some chrome from Vallejo Mortal Air. Again, if you haven't got this, you can use Stormhost Silver from Citadel and use this to highlight all of the silver areas. Where we've got the runes, it's really straightforward. Make sure you haven't got too much on your brush, and you can just do a very effective pulling the brush over the runes, and you'll catch those edges to build those highlights up. Again, take your time with this. Make sure not to spill anything onto those areas you've already finished. Next up, we'll highlight all of the black elements on the model, and the colour we're going to use for this is Dark Reaper. Now take your time, this is a fairly thin paint, so again you may need to put a little bit extra on in terms of getting a really nice even coverage. Where you can, use the sharp angles of the model to get nice crisp highlights by pulling the edge of the brush along them, and where you can't, just make sure you take your time. If you need to, just put some Black Legion on to tidy it up. To finish up the black highlights, take some Thunderhawk Blue and use this just on the sharpest edges. Again, looking to use those parts of the model that let you pull the edge of the brush along to get nice crisp highlights. It's fairly straightforward, and again, if you make any mistakes, you can always paint over them. We're rocking along now, so let's paint that face. So I'm going to base it with Davian Fleshtone. Now you're going to need 2 or 3 coats if you've made a mess like I have. If you haven't made a mess like I have, then you get away with it in just one coat. So take your time, get that on there. You want it to be fairly thin because you don't want to cover up any detail. When that Davian Fleshtone is dry, take some Reikland Fleshshade and paint it all over the skin. And what you'll start to see is how all those details come to life. When the Reikland Fleshshade is dry, go back to Davian Fleshtone and use this to highlight all of the sharpest areas, such as down the nose, catch those wrinkles, and across the cheekbones and the ears, leaving the Reikland Fleshshade in those recesses. Finally, take some Kislev Flesh and use this to highlight the most extreme parts of the face. So you've got the tips of the nose, all those wrinkles, and again the cheekbones. What you'll start to see is you'll get a really nice looking skin effect. I'm going to go for brown hair on this model, so I'm going to take some Garaghak sewer and use this to paint the hair, also the eyebrows and the moustache on the model. All of those areas look a little bit dark for my liking, so I'm going to take some Gorthor Brown and use this just to quietly highlight up the areas. Make sure I've got a good tip on my brush, not applying too much, but it'll just help them stand out a bit. And there we go, a really nice bright orange armour. I really like the Trans-Hyperion Alliance colour scheme. I may paint the rest of my Leagues of Votann this colour as well. If you liked the video, let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more of my content, check it out here.